I've heard you mention that you were taking like 4 or 5 students under your wing that you could mentor. And I'm curious if that was like from a scaling perspective, just because you can't be a coach, and I'm separating coach from teacher on purpose here.
Love that distinction, by the way.
When you focus on these 5 individuals, I'll just say 5 for now, whatever it may be, you have to give all of Clay Mayfield to those people. And you have many plates that you're spinning. What are you doing with these people? How do you scale that out?
Sure. That's a great question. So I want to expound on a great distinction you made there between coach and instructor. There's a difference, and you can probably split the pie however you want, but the way that I would define it, an instructor is someone who teaches the class. The students show up, the coach is there on time, he teaches a great class, he cares about what he teaches. You can be a really good instructor without being a coach, and that's no discredit at all to an instructor. I have several of them on staff, and I know that they're not coaches. I know that they're instructors, and they're great guys or ladies. They care, they do a great job, but when the job's done, the job's done. A coach is someone that is intimately connected with your journey. And this is another thing that people who maybe think they want to be a world champion or a competitor and they have an instructor and they need a coach. I was one of those for a long time. A coach is someone who knows the ins and outs of your game, not just you and 30 other people, and he knows he taught Uchimata in class. Like, he knows your game. He knows that you struggle with the left-hand collar grip being on your chest. He knows you struggle with breaking spider guard and you pass to the left side instead of the right side. A coach watches film on your matches. A coach will drive 4 hours or fly across the country to be in your corner when you're competing. A coach knows the competitors in your bracket and he knows what your weakness is. A coach knows the last time you lost. The coach knows how much sleep you got last night. That's the difference between a coach and a competitor. And the limited resource is the coach. I can't do that for 47 people. I can teach a class with 47 people and they all go home happy and then I go home to my family. But I can be a coach to a very small number of people. I'm the head coach of my gym. I teach a good amount of the classes. Not most of them anymore, but I teach a lot of classes when I'm in town. But I only coach a few athletes. We have, like I said, almost 400 students in the gym. Most of them are adults. We have about 150 kids and about 250 adults. And I have other coaches under me whose job it is to reach out to all the white belts and another one to all the kids and all the blue belts. Every week they're texting 50 people. Hey, I noticed you weren't in class, last week, or hey, Dan, you did a great job with the ankle lock. We're going to set you up with a private lesson, show you some of those details or whatever it is. It's always communicating with the students because I can't do that for everyone. I do that with my varsity guys. And then if there's 5 or 6 of the higher performers in class, maybe people that don't come to varsity practice or whatnot, but they give a damn about being as good as they can, I'll give extra attention to those people in class as well. One thing we do at Triangle, and I would say this is probably one of the most impactful things I've ever done at the gym, is how we warm up. We warm up all of our classes with something that we call the technique of the month. And it's always something simple. This month is arm triangle, head and arm choke from mount. Last month, I think it was Kimuras from guard. The month before that, it might be knee slice pass. So it's always something very simple. And everyone drills that for 10 minutes at the beginning of class as the warm up. So that way, most people are lucky to train twice a week. You and I and varsity guys that can train twice a day, 5 days a week are the exception to the rule. Most people are lucky to make it in 2 or 3 times a week. And so if I teach armbar, they may not see armbar again for 3 months, and then they've forgotten most of it. And you don't really learn the move in class. You see it, you go through the steps 4, 5, or 10 times, but it's not really in your muscle memory yet. And that's why it takes so long to learn, because you see something, you see it 3 months later, you see it 2 months later, and it slowly catches on. And it's just an imperfect system because, you only get so good training 2 or 3 times a week. But we have a technique of the month. So every time you come to class in the month of December, you're going to do arm triangles. And no matter what else we're learning for the rest of class, you've done that 400 times at the end of December, and it is in your muscle memory. And over a year, you've got 12 techniques that are staples: hip throw, single leg, knee slice, rear naked choke, shrimp escape, and you've done them hundreds and hundreds of times. And we do that in our fundamentals classes. We do it in our advanced classes. And in our fundamentals classes, we'll also do a couple minutes of, rollouts and break falls so the students that have never trained to learn those basic movements. But every single class in that month, the technique of the month is a 10-minute warm-up before we get into the technique for that class. And super simple. I would say that's probably one of the most helpful things we've ever implemented at the gym to help all the people that aren't full-time athletes get all those reps in. On my point saying all that was, when I have someone that maybe isn't a varsity guy but needs a little extra attention, or one of my more advanced guys, I can take him in that technique of the month when the rest of the class is doing the 10-minute warm up. I can take these two ladies and show them this footlock escape that they were struggling with in class. And it's kind of time to tailor the homework in the class without having people do private lessons.
I love that. Yeah, and I love the usage of actual instruction versus quote unquote traditional warm up or something reinforcing jujitsu to trying to maximize time.
You can do push ups and jumping jacks on your own. Like, during class, or jiu jitsu.